Hi there, awesome friends. Today we're going to do a little bit of play with chippies, and they have dimension. I've had a lot of people saying they're struggling, so this is an additional little tutorial using dimensional goodies. So chippies can usually be cardboard, which is fairly flexible. This is also cardboard, or they can be wooden. So this is a wooden chippy, and it's about, I don't know, 2 or 3 millimeters in thickness, the wooden one. I personally don't really like using the wooden ones. I find they're very hard, and they're usually much thicker than the cardboard ones. So let me just see if you can actually see the difference. So the cardboard chippies are actually the best. Okay, for today's tutorial we are going to do 2 ATC using cardboard chippies. I don't know what you call these in other countries, but here in South Africa we call them chippies. And I'm just trying to get the hearts out of this. Okay, so there's the one, and there's our butterfly, and it's easy for me to cut them than to try and break them. And then we've got joy and a butterfly. So let's have a look. Shall we use this flower and a heart, or heart, and a heart, or heart? Okay, let's just use a simple one so I can show you the difference between using 70 micron tape and 30 micron tape. So here we go. I'm using a little bit of wet glue rather than stick glue, because this does have, as I mentioned before, a bit more dimension. And let's place it on here. Remember, always leave a little gap around the sides. Don't glue right to the edge, because then your tape has nowhere to stick. Okay. I'm going to shift sorry about that, I'm shifting the butterfly up a little bit so I can move the joy up a little bit. Okay. And then the hearts, remember our ATC, 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches, or 6 centimeters by 9 centimeters. And here we are going to use some of these little chippy hearts, like this little one. I always like working in uneven numbers, so I'm only going to use 3 little hearts. Okay. One thing that you need to remember is when working with dimension, and just lift that up, look at the dimension on there. When working with dimension, it is a guarantee that you will tear your metal tape. So one of the things that I like to do when using the thin metal tape, or the 30 micron tape, I've already crumpled this one up, is to actually use all my scraps, because I find with the patchwork technique, and I will put a link to that tutorial below. With the patchwork technique, we are using all our remnants, our leftovers from previous tutorials or from previous projects. So here I haven't got any remnants or leftovers, so I'm just cutting a few strips. Here we go. And I honestly find using the patchwork technique is so much easier than putting an entire block of tape or rectangle of tape. I'll show you why. So when we're using the patchwork technique, we're going to put it down and tear. Here you go. And in between each piece that I place, I'm going to use my fingers to push it down. Now when you're using one piece of tape, you can't really smooth it down between the edges of the chippy. So do yourself a favor and remember the patchwork technique. Okay. Just using my fingers. So if you've got a chippy with lots of little spaces and sort of an intricate pattern or design, make sure you're using your patchwork technique. I'll put something like that. And also, once again, just using my fingers to smooth down. Now, in one of the very early tutorials I did last year, we have used things with dimension, like keys and paper clips and zips and all kinds of things. So yes, you can use dimension. Just remember that when you tear it, you haven't done anything wrong. It will tear. It's guaranteed to tear. Grab another strip. Okie dokie. Okay, so using my finger, rubbing all the little patches down nice and smoothly, and then we're going to lift this up and trim from behind. Okay, and I see I have omitted a little piece here on the edge. Let's do that and trim. Oh, I think my blade is a little bit blunt. Okay, sorry, getting the tape off my fingers. Okay, the most important thing that you cannot skip is using your paper pencil. Now they come in different thicknesses. This is the very fat one. I kind of like using a narrow or slim one compared to the fat one, and you're going to go around everything pretty carefully. You can see I'm not going very smoothly. And what you're doing here is you are gently stretching the tape. So do not skip the step when using your chippies, because if you do and you use your tools, they will go right through the tape. Guaranteed. So smoothing down everything. So I must just tell you, you get different quality paper pencils because these are not the best. They're actually a little bit bendy and I don't like them. It's kind of luck of the draw. You never quite know how strong your paper pencil is, and then when you find a brand that work, make sure you buy those in bulk. Okay, so you can't really see, but it is not 100% smoothed down in the grooves and around the design. I'm using my big pencil now, which is sturdier, and going around everything now again with the big pencil. Okie dokie. So now you can see I have kind of smoothed it down as best as I can. Right. The next thing is you're going to use pewter tool. I want to show you a few. Pardon me. So as you can see, they have different size little balls on the end. I want you to start off using a tool with one of the biggest balls on the end and go around everything as best you can. Okay. Going in all these little grooves. Here we are. Okay, so to the best of my ability, I have gone around most of the areas with this big ball tool. You can't see so well, but there we are. I'm using my credit card. Bear in mind that if you are using your wooden chippies, do not use the credit card to smooth anything down because it will tear your tape. Okay, so we've now used our big ball tool and we're going around everything here to make sure that it is nicely flattened around your design and word. Okay, so can you see we have kind of smoothed it down as best we can. Now if you have a look there, you can see that it is not smooth there, so we are now going to go onto slightly smaller tool and once again work around everything with the smaller tool, and you continue doing this until you are happy with your final design. So the smaller the tool, the easier it is to go into the little grooves, but if you start with the smallest tool, you are going to just go straight through the tape. So what we're really doing is just gently stretching our metal tape using a bigger tool and then going down to the smaller ones, stretching slowly, a little bit at a time. And smoothing again, and I'll show you now. So we have worked a little bit more and gone a bit deeper with a smaller tool. Okay, and now you can go even to a smaller ball to get even deeper definition. Work firmly and you get to know your tape. You will actually feel when you accidentally go through or poke a hole in the tape. There we go. Okay, now using my smaller tool, I'm also going to go around my joy. And to add a little detail, because the joy looks really plain, using the smallest of the tools, I am going to go around my letters. So here we go around the letters and add some detail that we can. And here I'll put some squiggles. Okay, so we've done that. And here I'm just going to put dots on the J And remember, when we're techniquing, we will have some detail for the ink to stick on. Okay, so there we go. All right, as you can see, I've techniqued my joy. Okay, now you can actually see the depth, or the, should I say, the height of the chippies. It really looks good, and you can see that I did not tear my tape, and the reason is that I used the patchwork. Now if I use the single piece of tape, as I mentioned to you, it will definitely tear. Now when you are using a simple design like this and you would like to have a little bit more depth, we are going to use our 70 micron thick tape, and this also is wonderful to work with. And here we go. So if you're using the 70 micron tape, it is not a good idea to use it with an intricate chippy, because you will lose the design. The thick tape will not be able to go into all those little grooves like this. You won't be able to do this design using your 70 micron tape. So please keep that in the back of your mind. So here we go, just trim it. Okay, and trim here. And we're going to trim here. Now with this 70 micron tape, sorry, I just want to trim it with my scissors. My blunt blade is irritating me. You can already see how bumpy the back is because I was pressing down on the card. Now, once again, using my fingers to basically go around the areas. And what do we do next? We use our paper pencil. So here we go with our paper pencil. And it's important to go slowly, otherwise you will end up, if you look there, there's a crease. If you go too quickly, you're going to make a permanent crease there. And I don't really want creases, so work slowly. Make sure you get your creases out. But if you want the creased look, it's a lovely vintage look, so there's nothing wrong with it. But for this card, I want it nice and smooth. So here I'm using my paper pencil again, going round the design, then going to a smaller paper pencil, going round the design again, smaller paper pencil, smaller paper pencil. Okay, so you can see I have gone around my design and it already looks great. Now, what do we do next? We use a big ball tool to go around nicely. So here we go. And what I'm going to do is this top part, I'm not going to technique or go around with any tools. I want you to see the difference when we ink it. And then we're going to go to a smaller tool, and we can work a little bit firmer with this tape, but go slowly because your tools can in fact slip. So I'm going firmly around there, and you can see that looks great, and a lovely dimension here that we have. Okay, so I would like to do a little bit of interest on my background, and I had a remnant from some packaging, and I thought this would make a great stencil. So we are going to use a ball tool with a very small tip. So you can see this tip is quite tiny, and we are going to use my handmade stencil, my, what would you call it, reused packaging, and we are going to draw some background technique here. So what I've done is I'm just using the scribble or the lines towards the edge, always not going this way, otherwise you hook your tape. And using my recycled stencil, look at the lovely ovals it's made. And then just moving it down so I can draw a few more. Let's go here. And see how lovely that looks. So we're going to continue using our stencil to create some interest on the background. And here we go with the stencil, and drawing with our tool. Sorry about my husband clapping downstairs. Obviously wants coffee, but I'm busy. And here we go. And I'm just lining it up to go around. If you have a look there, we are just using our stencil for some detail. Now remember, if you're drawing on your 70 micron tape, you can't really make any corrections. So if you draw a line, it's there for good. Whereas if you accidentally make a little line on your thin metal tape, you can use your paper pencil to kind of erase it. Okay, and where have we got here? Just kind of lining it up a bit there. And here, let's see. Yeah. Okay, so you can see I've made some little ovals, and what we are going to do now is ink it with our lovely Sharpie marker. Remember our top part, we didn't do any technique on it at all. We didn't outline it with our tools, so you will see the difference. Okie dokie. And let that dry, and then we're going to color our patchwork butterfly. And afterwards you can tell me which you prefer, the 30 micron patchwork or the 70 micron plain. So if I have a choice, I must just tell you that I would say 90% of the time I'm using the thin 30 micron metal tape, and usually when I'm doing words or embellishments I'm using your 70 micron thick tape. Okay, so here we are. As soon as the ink is dry to the touch, we can gently buff it. Now remember, if you're using a sanding block and you have used wooden chippies, you've got to be so careful that you don't sand through the tape. Anything that's raised is dangerous to use a sanding block. Okay, so now you can see the difference that I was trying to explain to you. If you look at your top heart, it's okay, but if you look at the bottom hearts, the ink has stuck in the grooves around the heart and actually accentuated the design, if you can see what I mean. I'm sure you can. And then let's see this one. Also kind of keeping the sanding block horizontal and then working around the edges of the design. And the nice thing about the patchwork is that your ink also sticks where all the joins are. So it really adds to your background technique. So look how beautiful that is. And that's using your chippies. Once again, just to recap, try and avoid using your wooden chippies and rather stick to the more flexible cardboard ones that are definitely much thinner than the wooden chippy. Take care, and I hope you enjoyed that.